At dawn, in AD 125, a steel cliff appears outside Rome's greatest harbour. A Roman bolt hits the hull and breaks. 23 sailors from 2026 face an empire of tens of millions. Their ship has cranes, medicine, and machines. Rome has soldiers, and one question: surrender or open the hold. The first container touches Roman timber. Inside is enough hardware to change agriculture, medicine, and war. But the fuel gauge is already falling. Rome has not received the future. It has received a countdown. This is not a floating cheat code. The vessel cannot enter Trajan's inner basin. Its cranes can unload cargo, but Rome cannot refine its fuel, replace a processor, or manufacture a modern bearing. Satellites are gone. The internet is gone. Even the crew know only fragments of the civilization that built their ship. If they waste the first weeks demonstrating miracles, the engine dies and the miracle dies with it. So the real question is not what the Romans can use today. It is what they can still build after the ship goes dark. In 125, Hadrian rules an empire at its high point. He is a builder, a traveler, and a man obsessed with systems that endure. He reaches Portus expecting a weapon. Captain Elena Ward offers him a bargain instead. The crew will open the holds, train Roman craftsmen, and print everything useful before the power fails. In return, the workshops must be protected from confiscation, their workers paid, and any enslaved specialist assigned to the project must be freed. Hadrian does not agree because he suddenly becomes modern. He agrees because 23 foreigners have made themselves more valuable alive than conquered. Rome already moves water better than almost any ancient society. Its weakness is not engineering, it is invisible biology. The ship's medical cargo can save hundreds, perhaps thousands, then it is gone. The durable revolution is cheaper. Boil surgical tools, wash hands, separate drinking water from waste, isolate fever wards, control rats, and record outcomes. The crew demonstrate a compact treatment unit at Portus, but Roman builders copy the logic in stone, sand, charcoal, and heat. They do not discover every microbe. They discover that prevention can be measured. For the first time, an imperial order can spread a medical practice faster than an epidemic. The obvious cargo is not the valuable cargo. Solar panels will delaminate, batteries will die, antibiotics will expire, but a ruler, a micrometer, a germ theory diagram, and a method for testing clean water can reproduce themselves inside human minds. The crew create a ruthless list: sanitation, crop rotation, mechanical drawing, standardized measurements, paper, printing, optics, basic chemistry, and the principles of the steam engine, not the engine itself. Every lesson must pass one test. Can Roman workshops build the next copy without the ship? If the answer is no, it is a museum piece. A tractor is impressive for one season. A seed drill that can be pulled by oxen matters for centuries. The crew use limited fuel to demonstrate pumps, depth control, crop spacing, and sealed grain storage. Roman carpenters strip away everything they cannot reproduce. Steel becomes iron. Rubber becomes leather. The engine disappears, but the geometry remains. Agricultural estates begin recording yields instead of trusting tradition. Fewer seeds are wasted. Irrigation reaches higher terraces. Granaries lose less grain to moisture and rats. This does not create modern abundance. It creates something politically explosive, a larger, more predictable surplus, and a state that knows exactly where it is. The Industrial Revolution is not one invention. It is a chain of tolerances. A cylinder must be round, a valve must seal, a replacement bolt must fit a machine built 1,000 miles away. Rome has brilliant smiths, but most parts are individual works of craft. Malick and Lucius build gauges before engines. They standardize a handful of threads, shaft sizes, and drawings. Then, they connect a copied lathe to water power, a resource Rome already understands. Progress is slow, dirty, and full of rejected parts. That is exactly why it works. The future arrives not as a perfect machine, but as a bin of failures that all fail by less each week. Technology does not arrive in an empty world. It arrives in someone else's business model. Grain merchants fear transparent weights. Guild masters fear interchangeable parts. Landowners fear paid workers. Priests do not all oppose the newcomers, but rivals call the ship a false temple and Hadrian's project a foreign coup. One night, men enter the workshop to burn the presses and seize the medical stores. Lucius recognizes the leader as an agent of the same estate that once owned him. The attack fails, but the future changes. Guards appear at every door, manuals receive seals. Knowledge survives, yet access now depends on imperial permission. Rome has learned the first modern lesson too well. Information is power. The ship carries more information than the Library of Alexandria could hold, and almost none of it is useful in its current form. A laptop cannot teach a province after its battery dies, so the crew choose what to save. Not entertainment, not advanced physics Rome cannot use. They print a minimum viable civilization, diagrams, experiments, medical cautions, crop manuals, metallurgy, surveying, accounting, and instructions for making paper and movable type. Then, Roman artisans build presses from screw technology they already possess. The last laser printer creates the books that teach people how to replace the last laser printer with something cruder and permanent. No steam trains cross the empire in Hadrian's lifetime. Knowledge does not erase mining limits, fuel costs, or politics. The first leap is less cinematic and more powerful. Watermill complexes multiply. Paper replaces expensive copying surfaces for routine administration. Printed repair manuals travel with standardized gauges. Pumps drain mines and feed cities. Better glass improves surveying and lenses. Roads gain measured maintenance schedules. By the 160s, Rome is not modern. It is an ancient state with the beginnings of an information system and a machine culture. That makes it richer and harder to break, but also easier for one ruler to command at distance. There is a darker answer. Cleaner water saves children, and better records find every taxable field. Printing spreads medicine and censorship. Standard parts repair pumps and armies. Hadrian frees the workers closest to the project, but the Roman world does not abolish slavery because 23 strangers ask. A more resilient empire can also become a more efficient machine of control. The cargo ship never contained democracy. It contained leverage. So perhaps Horizon does not save Rome. Perhaps it saves Roman power from the consequences that once forced it to change. If you could send one modern cargo to the ancient world, what would it be? And who would you trust to open it? 14 months after arrival, Horizon's main engine turns for the last time. The crew preserve fuel for pumps, radios inside the harbour, and a few emergency generators, but filters fail, seals harden, and the final control module burns out. Malik could keep the machine alive a little longer by cannibalizing the cranes. He refuses. The cranes have already done their work. At sunset, Elena orders the ship shut down. Portus watches the brightest object in the ancient world become dark steel. Then, from the workshop canal, another rhythm continues. Wood, leather, and bronze, turning under water power. The ship is dead. The copy is alive. 40 years after the ship arrives, the real timeline strikes back. Troops return from the east, carrying the disease remembered as the Antonine Plague. Historians still debate its identity. The future manuals cannot name it with certainty, and the old antibiotics would be dust anyway. But the empire now knows how to separate the sick, inspect ports, reduce crowding, clean instruments, and compare outbreaks between cities. The epidemic still kills. It still terrifies. Yet, printed protocols move ahead of some infected units, and commanders can close routes before rumor becomes policy. Rome does not defeat disease. It turns one civilization-breaking shock into a brutal, survivable crisis. Better systems do not make emperors immortal. Civil wars still come, frontiers move, and armies still crown rulers. But when central authority fractures, cities keep the same measures, repair manuals, and legal forms. The West becomes a Roman Commonwealth, competing courts and provinces sharing an operating system. Rome survives less like a throne and more like a protocol. By 2026, the result is not legionaries with laser rifles. Industrialization still takes centuries because knowledge must wait for materials, energy, and institutions. Yet it begins from a higher floor. The Mediterranean remains the center of a federated Roman world. The compass seal from Horizon survives on standards, passports, and machines long after everyone forgets the ship was real. The future does not replace Rome. Rome metabolizes it.